There are stories in the Bible so disturbing, they were almost erased. But one survived. A story of forbidden blood and a race born from rebellion. This is the rise of the Nephilim. Before the flood, before the ark, there was a moment in history the world was never meant to remember. A moment when heaven touched flesh. Genesis 6, 1-2 says, "When human beings began to increase in number on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that they were beautiful, and they took them as wives." But who were these sons of God? Were they angels? Celestial watchers? Or a divine order that crossed a sacred line? And why did they come? Was it lust, or something more sinister? Some say it was rebellion. Others believe it was a cosmic contamination. Genesis 6:4 continues, "The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went into the daughters of men and had children by them." But why does it say, "and also afterward"? Didn't the flood wipe them out? Later in the Bible, we see Goliath. We meet Og, king of Bashan, a man whose bed was over 13 feet long. Deuteronomy 3 verse 11. And in Numbers 13:33, the Israelite spies say, "We saw the Nephilim there, the descendants of Enoch. We seemed like grasshoppers next to them." So, did the Nephilim survive? Were these post-flood giants their legacy? Or had the corruption returned? One thing is clear. From this unholy union, a race of giants was born. The Nephilim, creatures of legend, children of heaven and earth, and a threat so severe that God himself said, Genesis 6:6, "The Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled." This wasn't poetry. This wasn't myth. This was the beginning of the end. The Nephilim were born. But what came next was worse than anyone could have imagined. These were not just large men. They were hybrids, creatures between two worlds. They ruled with might, with fire, and with knowledge they should have never possessed. Genesis 6 verse 4 calls them mighty men of old, men of renown. But what does renown mean in a corrupted world? Was it honor or infamy? The Book of Enoch, chapter 7, describes their reign in horrifying detail. They taught enchantments and root cuttings, made them acquainted with plants, and they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish. What does that mean? Was this manipulation? Hybridization? Were they altering the natural order? And then they turned on humanity. In the Book of Enoch, chapter 7, verses 5-6, it says, "They devoured all that men produced. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind." Cannibalism, genocide, utter chaos. The Nephilim had polluted the earth, but not just the land. They had corrupted the bloodline. Could this explain God's anger in Genesis 6 verse 6? The Lord regretted that he had made mankind. And so, God made a decision. A flood was coming, not just to erase humanity's sin, but to purge something deeper, something unnatural, a corruption of heaven and earth that could not be allowed to survive. The world had changed. The beauty of Eden was a distant memory. What the Nephilim began had infected everything. Genesis 6 verse 11 says, "Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight and full of violence." But what does that mean? What did the world actually look like? The Book of Enoch says the fallen ones taught humans to make swords, shields, and breastplates. They taught enchantments, the signs of the stars, and the course of the moon. Forbidden knowledge, technology born from corruption. Cities rose, empires of pride and blood. Idols filled the temples. Creatures no longer fully human roamed the land. What were these creatures? Hybrids? Spirits trapped in flesh? Genesis 6 verse 12 says, God looked upon the earth, and it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted its way. Not just humans. All flesh. The skies burned. The waters turned black. Even the animals changed. And mankind? Mankind became like the giants, violent, proud, blind. The earth cried out. Heaven heard. And judgment began to rise. But before destruction came grief. Genesis 6 verse 6 again. It grieved the Lord to his heart. God was not just angry. He was heartbroken. And what do you do when your creation betrays itself? You wipe the canvas clean. The earth had no answer. Only silence and sorrow. And then the skies broke open. Genesis 7 verse 11 says, all the fountains of the great deep burst forth, and the windows of heaven were opened. It didn't begin with a roar. It began with stillness, as if the universe was holding its breath. Rain fell like knives. Wind screamed like angels weeping. The ground split apart, and as the waters rose, the giants fell. Their strength meant nothing. Their fame forgotten. Their legacy buried. But the blood of their corruption still whispers beneath the soil. Are the Nephilim truly gone? Or do their shadows still walk among us? Some say they will rise again. Would you recognize them if they did? Subscribe for more mythic revelations. The flood may have ended, but the secrets of the past are not yet drowned. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.